CEO of the Walt Disney Company, Bob Iger, is getting exposed to the world and could be facing the worst year of his tenure at the House of Mouse in 2025. Why? Well, it has much to do with Moana 2. And despite how crazy that might sound, and contradictory to what the mainstream media drive-by journalists are telling you, Moana is sinking Bob. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the place that is never sinking below the truth. We always bring it to you as best we can, hot, piping, and ready to be piped straight to you through the power of YouTube. Folks, all we ask is that you click this like button. We are about to break the media narrative, shatter it, and you will never be able to go back again. Sorry, Mouse, but this is where it is. This is where the truth can be found. Here we go, folks. It's out of Forbes. Julian Hayes II. I want to show you the latest puff pieces that are out there trying to support and build up Bob as he gets ready for his farewell tour. Bob Iger is going to be leaving Disney in 2026, and so 25 is supposed to be the big one, the fun one. It's the big hurrah, the major huzzah. It says Disney CEO Bob Iger on why fit leaders make better CEOs. Now, I don't know about you folks, but I'm going to tell you right now, I would not put Bob Iger at the list of top CEOs. And that is a drastic departure from where he was just a decade ago. Before he left, everybody thought that Bob Iger was absolutely wonderful. He had very few detractors. Then he made a hard turn left to move the company, that is Disney, into a partisan direction as he was contemplating, at the time, a run for the presidency. And he had to work his way through those Democratic primaries. But that never came to be. He never decided to pull the trigger, and as a result, Disney lurched left, and nothing good came of it, except that Disney went down as families turned away who were in the sensible center and the conservative viewpoint. Now, this article says, being a CEO is anything but a casual stroll in the park. The role comes with immense responsibility, potential scrutiny, and pressures from every angle. And it basically goes on to talk about how good Bob Iger is because he's skinny. No joke. This is out of Forbes. And we love, by the way, Caroline Reed does great work at Forbes. Some of the other authors, though, can be a little zany. And so this argument that Bob Iger, not Elon Musk, by the way, whose Tesla stock is insane, and who, by the way, I think is going to dominate the AI space, artificial intelligence, as soon as Grok 3 comes out. This Colossus project in Memphis is insane. We can't go there, but folks, maybe someday soon we'll get to do a video on that. But of all people, Bob Iger is the greatest CEO, and why? Because he's skinny. I don't think so. If that were the case, Ariana Grande would be the best CEO candidate for any company anywhere on the planet. Let me show you something that is skinny, and that is the amount of money that Moana 2 is making, and I'm going to tie this back into why Bob might be facing a very difficult 2025. Again, breaking the media narrative. Now, you've been told that Moana 2 is doing fantastic, and that, well, isn't true. It might have been at one point, but take a look at this, folks. The worldwide box office for Moana 2 as it gets ready to go into its third weekend is $610 million worldwide. And you would say, well, that's fantastic. Except that this was once upon a time a Disney Plus show that was then retrofitted in 6 months to be a movie. And we don't know the cost associated with that, but I can tell you that the marketing has been huge on it. So let's assume that there's a $200 million marketing budget on this. And let's assume that the $150 million budget they had for the Disney Plus show is exceeded by leaps and bounds in order to turn this into a movie in 6 months, which was a Herculean task, by the way. You can see that if this movie cost them $400 million to make, and I think that's extremely generous, that's marketing plus production, and if they get 50% back after taxes and theaters take their cut, this movie needs $800 million to break even. Wow, right? Wow. Well, yes, that's how Disney spends. And guess what, folks? Despite them spinning a win at the beginning, this movie, which we gave I believe a 4 out of 10, it's terrible. The only reason I give it a 4 out of 10 is because the animations are beautiful. The scenery is beautiful, and the voice actors themselves, Dwayne Johnson and Ali'i Cravalho, they do the best they can. Bob Iger decided to make this thing into a movie. He decided to take a Disney Plus show for their most popular princess brand, and not just their princess brand, but their most popular brand on the planet. They don't own Bluey, remember. Their most popular brand, Moana 2, he decided we're going to take a TV show and we're going to turn it into a direct-to-DVD sequel that we'll throw on the big screen and pretend that it's worth watching. Return to Neverland 2.0. You'll get that reference if you've been around for a while. So let's take a look at what happens when you release something and the goodwill of the original drives the viewership, but then people realize that the quality is awful. Well, this is what happens. Follow along, folks, with the math. Moana 2 opened in just 6 days, I believe. We'll count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days. In 6 days, less than 1 week, it earned $225 million domestic. Well, what happened to it after word got out that it's awful? And remember, Moana, the original, is beloved. So you would never want to damage this. Moana, the original, was the most streamed movie in 2023 and in 2022. And who knows how long it's been this popular. But $225 million in 6 days based off the goodwill, the beloved nature of the original, which Bob Iger was willing to capitalize on. But capitalize on it with a movie that's not worth watching. So, 225 in 6 days. This is the Bob Iger effect. After the first 6 days, what has Moana done in the subsequent 11 days? Well, it's earned about 80 million, less than 100 million. So in 6 days, off the goodwill of the original, it earned $225 million domestic. It took it 11 more days, and it still hasn't reached an additional $100 million yet. That is what we call a plateau. And that means that this movie has one more weekend where you might see half of the leap from the prior weekend. So weekend number 2, it went from 259 up to 300 essentially. So it had a $40 million. So if we assume that it's going to have a typical drop-off, that means that this movie is only going to gain about 20 million in this next weekend. And what does that mean, folks? Well, multiply that by 2 for the international. That gets you to 650 at the end of this weekend. Perhaps it'll do slightly better. And then this movie is out of steam because Sonic 3 and Mufasa release. And that means that Moana is not going to break the $1 billion mark. That is gone. Now, why does that matter? Because it shatters the media narrative that Bob Iger is a genius and that he did this, and that the Moana 2 success proves that Bob knows everything that he's doing, and Bob has the Midas touch. And that stinky old Bob Chapek, the former CEO that kicked out, well, he's just a doofus, despite the fact that he greenlit Deadpool and Wolverine. We're not supposed to remember that. So Deadpool and Wolverine, that's Bob Chapek's baby, and Moana 2 is Bob Iger's baby. Now, this is out of Variety, and it says Moana was key to Disney's comeback year from the beginning. It's key to the comeback, despite the fact, and this is because these places, by the way, this is by Tyler Aquilina, and we apologize. We hate to shine a negative light on anybody, and I'm sure that Tyler does a fantastic job in other articles. But this is a knee-jerk reaction. This is the aftershocks of a very positive PR campaign for Moana 2 that does not deserve it, because this film is coming nowhere close to Inside Out 2, and Inside Out is nothing, or it was nothing, in terms of a franchise that could face off against Moana. Moana was the biggest property Disney had. And because of Bob Iger, they've diminished it. In just a moment, I'll share with you why that's going to lead to that 2025 difficulty that we discussed before. It could be the worst year for Bob Iger ever. Disney's box office resurgence, solidified by Moana 2, has defined its 2024 comeback, but there's more to it than that. The original Moana has become one of Disney's most valuable content assets through massive Disney Plus engagement. Pause for a moment, folks. Moana was already the most streamed movie in 2023, despite the fact it came out in 2016. That means that it can't go higher. I mean, I guess it could get more views as a percentage, but it was already the biggest movie in 2023. And that's organically, because there was no promotion of it. There was no effort to make that happen. It just happened, just because people like that movie. So what does Moana 2 define? Well, it definitely doesn't define a resurgence or some sort of spectacular win by Disney. It defines the Bob Iger idea that you will do something to get a splashy headline for 2 weeks and then ignore the fact that it failed spectacularly otherwise. Folks, we are now looking into possibility, and I cannot believe this, because Moana is a guaranteed $1 billion every single movie franchise if you just put out something that's not woke and isn't terrible. And they couldn't do that. It's not woke, but it's also terrible. It's a 2 out of 10 if you remove the beautiful scenery and the fantastic voiceovers. The story itself is a 2 out of 10. It is lame. It is awful. And this is now a movie that's going to struggle to break $700 million. In fact, I think Disney will leave it in theaters long enough that it will sort of drag itself to $750 million worldwide. That might be a flop. That might be a financial flop because, again, probably, although they're never going to admit this because they don't have to disclose this, it's not made in the UK, so we don't get the tax documents. It probably needs $800 million to break even. If it makes 750, in our most generous estimation, therefore, it's a break even. And companies do not invest this kind of effort into a break even because that doesn't keep up with inflation. It doesn't match the ROI expectations, return on investment. And you certainly don't do that to something that is your biggest brand that has occurred organically, that will create vast revenues and economies for you so long as you nurture it over the next years and decades. And instead, Bob Iger thought he would do a cheap direct-to-DVD sequel, essentially, throw it onto the big screen, and make tons of money. And the mainstream media, the drive-bys, were all too happy to celebrate this. Take a look at this. This is out of ScreenRant. I want you all to see that we've been telling you what's happening the whole way through, and they just don't get it. ScreenRant, days ago, said, will Moana 2 make $1 billion at the box office, breaking down its current total and future performance? By Max Rusinski. And guess what? It says Moana 2 has already been incredibly successful at the box office so far, and its momentum doesn't seem like it will run out anytime soon. Oh my, oh my. So what is, and I love this, Moana 2 was actually originally planned to be a Disney Plus series, but it was ultimately decided that it should be a theatrical release. This ended up being a very smart decision, since Moana 2 has been earning a lot of money at the box office. Very smart decision, folks. Look at that. Look at that plateau now. Let's recall $225 million made in the first 6 days of a holiday week when people did not hear how bad it was, less than 100 in the next subsequent 11 days. ScreenRant thought it was brilliant. So, what did they say? What did they say as far as it was going to make? Let's go down here. It talks about how it was a record breaker. Sounds a lot like The Last Jedi, by the way. Last Jedi came out off the goodwill of Star Wars fans, and then it did the same thing. It plateaued. This is not as bad as Last Jedi, but in terms of the financial stupidity of it, it's pretty darn. Oh, by the way, Moana 2 is expected to have strong legs at the box office. Yeah, they always know what's going to happen. I want to get down here to where they're going to tell us exactly how it's going to do. Moana 2 should make over $1 billion, but by how much? Moana 2 will make much more than the first movie. The amount of money that Moana 2 has already made at the box office is shocking. Shocking, we say. The aforementioned Frozen 2, for example, made $1.4 billion at the worldwide box office. Oh, really? So what they're claiming in this article is that Moana 2 should perform like Frozen 2. And if it performs like Frozen 2, then Moana 2 should get in this range up here. They were thinking that Moana 2 was going to earn 1.2, 1.3, 1.4. It might even contend with Inside Out 2. This is what ScreenRant thought. This is the reality. The film is now facing flop status. And it's facing flop status because the skinniest CEO was so brilliant to take a direct-to-TV, a TV Disney Plus series, and say, hey, throw out the middle episodes, save the first and the last, let's make it a movie, fast, 6 months, you got it, let's go. They never see it coming, folks, because they never have the level of resolution in their thinking that they need to predict reality. Well, here's what we're predicting. Folks, we bring you now to 2025, and we're going to have an in-depth video about this coming up real soon. Don't miss it. We're going to talk about the full slate of films. I really want you to see that video. We can't spend the kind of time we do there in this one, but take a look. What is Disney going to do in 2025? What is going to save Bob Iger as he faces Epic Universe, potentially knocking Disney World off of its throne as the leading theme park company in the industry? Well, they've got Captain America Brave New World that they're still reshooting. They've got Rachel Zegler's Snow White, hot off the heels of the very hot Y2K. They have Alexander and the Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Road Trip. The Amateur, Thunderdolts. Finally, they get Lilo and Stitch. That will be successful. Elio, not sure about it. Fantastic Four, the first Silver Surfette. Please don't give us any more Freakier Friday. Tron in October, Predator, and then they get some wins with Zootopia and Avatar. Depending on the quality of these films, folks, this could be a very expensive and very spectacular crash for Disney. Because let's count the films. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 films. 13 films, and of those, 3 of them, I believe, are solidly in the profit category going forward. And remember that Bob Iger, when he returned to CEO, that he declared that he was going to save the creative side of Disney. He was going to put it back on the right track. That was why they declared Bob Chapek had to go, because he had emptied out the creativity of the studios, and Bob Iger was going to fix it. The problem for Mr. Fix-It is 2025 really is the year where no longer can you blame anything on Chapek. His baby is already out there. It's already been delivered, Deadpool and Wolverine. That was Bob Chapek's baby. It's done. We're back into the Bob Iger era where all the stuff coming to you was greenlit, developed. It was gestated in the womb of one mousy messiah, Bob Iger. And we're going to find out, is Disney still on fire? I have a feeling, folks, that this is going to be a real hard and cold dousing of reality for investors. I cannot give you financial advice, but I can tell you this. Disney is facing headwinds like they have not faced in a while, and it's going to be hard for them to find a win, at least at the box office, definitely with the theme parks. Cruise lines look like a positive, but if you want to know about the skinniest CEO, the guy who stays fit, so he's fit to lead all CEOs, according to Forbes, and so I'm so sorry, Forbes. This Julian Hayes, come on. Oh, good grief. What a puff piece. What a puff piece. Folks, we're going to find out if skinny is plenty enough for Bob Iger to skate by into his final year and get out the door of Disney unscathed. I have a feeling the comeuppance era is upon us, and consumers will be the ones who deal out that comeuppance to him. Folks, that's the video for today. Wanted to show you what's going on and why the media narrative is simply untrue. This Moana thing, it is, oh my gosh, I got to show it to you again. This is crazy to me. This film in the beginning was expected. They really thought that it was going to be a record breaker, and then it itself has been broken by consumers who, it turns out, are not simply grazing cows who will go lazily purchase up tickets just because they love the first one, and you can produce them sludge and they'll go enjoy it nevertheless because they have IQs the size of Venus flytraps. No, it turns out that's not the case. And they're not snapping up those tickets like flies on their tongues. No, they want quality. We want quality, and we don't care how skinny Bob is. Folks, help this video not be skinny. Help us break that media narrative by clicking the like button. Share, subscribe, click it, and stick it to the algorithms. It is the notification bell. Drop a comment down below. Let us know your thoughts about all of this. And folks, we hope that you're having a wonderful Friday evening. Get out there and enjoy this weekend if you can. We wish you extremely well. Be the best that you can be and change this world for the better. You can nudge it in the right direction. Folks, until the next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep having fun.
What on earth could I ask for Christmas that's like a guarantee from Santa? Oh, I know!
Yeah, Wilton, we need to talk. You're likely not going to get anything from Santa because you've not really been, good.
Well, don't be so sure, my good fellow.
Okay.
Anyway, I'm gonna go find Slade and wish him a happy Merry Christmas holidays. Okay.
Bye. All right, let's see what he asked for. Coal and a gifted WDW Pro membership. That little troll does have a heart. A diseased, twisted, tiny, sinful heart, but a heart nonetheless. Well, Merry Christmas, everyone!